Hey Wayne, good morning.
Good morning, Buck. How are you today?
Very good, very good. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you.
Very
Very
good.
well.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on the call because I had something very interesting in my current conversation with one of my portfolio companies. And I thought this is something that you have spent a lot of time on and wanted to pick your brains. And then instead of doing it selfishly one on one, I thought, why not do it with the whole community?
Excellent.
So what's going on is, I'm seeing some leaders who are excellent in technology, functional knowledge, all that stuff, but they are somehow not getting that relationship management is a fundamental thing that they need to work on. They are thinking that if you appoint some salespeople, marketing people, kind of people, then relationship management is something that employees can do, and founders, CEOs don't need to really do relationship management. And I heard you saying a lot of things about this for so many years. So I thought, let me get your perspective for the benefit of all of us.
Buck, that's a very, very good topic, and it's one that I have been and remain very passionate about
Mhm.
because I come across a lot of CEO and founders and entrepreneurs, and you're right. They are very focused at building the best when it comes to their product, technology, and these are executives or leaders that are able to grow the company, to scale the company. They know how to do that. But I think one of the gaps that I continue to find in my journey and travels is really how do you build those relationships that will help the company grow and to scale in a meaningful way. And one of the problems and challenges is because there's a number of CEOs, a number of executives may feel that that is a quality or an aspect that they may not give the importance to, because many times they're focusing inward as opposed to outward, and really what it takes to build that relationship and to grow a relationship. And so you're absolutely right. One of the things, though, that I feel that is needed is that a CEO or a leader or an organization needs to identify why they want to build a relationship. What's the reason? What's the rationale? Do they want to build a relationship to grow the business, to help grow the business? That they want to build a relationship to help them if they're going to pitch or they need if they want to raise capital. What's the at core? What is the reason, the rationale on why an organization wants to grow that and grow a relationship with their clients or their partners or with their or in their in the industry? And I think once they understand exactly the reason why and why that is important, then they can think back to what they need to build as a strategy in order to execute a
Mhm.
relationship management
Okay.
approach.
Yep. That's the correct, because I heard you so many times, Wayne, in some of the board roles that I see you playing, as well as in other discussions. That I think you put it very well, but I would like you to expound that a little bit today for benefit of all of us. That a salesperson may build transactions, but a CEO needs to build relationships. That has been your stand all along. So can you talk a little more about that?
I thank you, Buck. You're absolutely right, and I've seen that within organizations that I work with and those that I consult. There is so much power and so much credibility when that CEO builds that relationship and build that relationship and building bridges with other senior executive leaders. When they're able to communicate and build and strengthen that relationship, the organization's going to benefit. So you're right, salespeople, a sales executive could do very well in building those relationships, but a senior executive takes it to another level. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
I have clients that I have worked with and had advised, and there's one particular bank that I've been trying to work with for a client for a number of years. And it means having conversations and seeing them at conferences. But I was able to take that CEO with the senior executive at that bank at an event, at a conference. And by that CEO already knew the senior executive at the bank, but by maintaining that relationship throughout the years, was able to be a front runner in an there was an RFP. The RFP was closed, but it was able to get that company involved in that RFP, and they actually won the deal. And so it's not because of that, the whole aspect of the relationship in of itself. Obviously, the product and all the other factors came into consideration, but that CEO had so much weight and so much credibility in opening up and opening up those relationships with a large bank and a senior executive at that bank. So I think that what really helped is just by over the years keeping in touch, over the years seeing and meeting at a conference and having, maybe having coffee at an event, just keeping that casual business relationship open was very, very important, because at the end of the day, a senior executive, a CEO, or someone in the C-suite builds and has so much street credit that they can bring to the table, and many times they don't necessarily understand their value. They don't understand how they could, or the fact of what they bring to a situation, especially when that company is growing and the company is scaling. So sometimes just kind of focusing on that and how that is done is very important. So I agree. I'm a strong advocate and I remain that as such on those. A senior executive needs to continue to look outward as well as inward on how they continue to stretch those relationships. And one of the things happens to be, and one of the things that I've advised CEOs, and I've been doing this with a number of CEOs, Buck, is that I introduce industry executives, peer executives, on a periodic basis to the CEOs and founders. And it's a fascinating project that I've been taking. I've launched last year because many senior executives don't have the bandwidth or time when it comes to really reaching out to other senior executives. So I realized that was a gap. And one of the things that I worked on with BFSITechTalks and the virtual lunch is just really focusing on how we can help these executives build these relationships. And there are some criteria. These senior executives or general managers have to manage budgets of a certain dollar amount, because I think that's important, and it keeps them in a certain tier with their other fellow executives. And we just basically create these meetings around just building a relationship with each other. And that's something that I've been able to do.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Now it is so important. I hope all our FinTech founders and entrepreneurs take advantage of that, because there is one sentence that has stuck in my mind Wayne, kind of for many, many years, that if you are not networking, then you are not working.
Yeah, I believe that.
And people need to really get this, because incredible products, incredible efforts, and then because of lack of relationships, many of them are not able to achieve their potential.
Yes.
But let me come to another interesting aspect of this. Each one of us is a product of our own context and background. So for somebody, relationship management is permanently getting down into the weeds, filling up RFPs and answering questions, and some CEOs get to that. Some other CEOs think that, CEO relationship management is really speaking about playing golf, not about talking business. So can you give a kind of relationship management 101 for entrepreneurs, startup CEOs, founders who are, let us say, less than 5 years in business, for example?
Yeah, it's a good point. So I have actually started crafting a curriculum or course around relationship management. Mm-hmm. It is something that I'm passionate about, and I'm calling it Relationship Management 1.0. And it's a module that I'm putting together to really help leaders, founders, entrepreneurs to understand how to build a relationship. And so there's a lot of information that I have learned over the years, and I want to share that with other people and how they can benefit. So one of the things that come to at the very beginning of building a relationship is to understand why you want to build that relationship. And it's not necessarily contingent on your personality profile of being an introvert or an extrovert. These are tools that could be used regardless of our personality profile of what we could do in order to build and strengthen relationships. So at the core is why that relationship needs to be built. And is it tied back into revenue? Is it tied back to building opportunities? Is it tied to networking? Really understanding why that relationship needs to be built. And then so the other piece of how I look at relationship building is if I'm in a car and I want to go from one destination to another, right? So when I go through one destination to another, especially a place that I've not been, I need tools. I need a map, or I need some device that's going to help me navigate going from one location to the next, especially if I've never done that before. And that's really what I look at by putting together this course or curriculum about relationship management 1.0. It starts at the very beginning of the journey with understanding why that relationship needs to be built. The next thing is, why is it important and what really needs to be accomplished? What's the end game? So is it because I want to build a relationship to get new partners? Is it why I want to build a relationship because I want to find out from the investment community and raise capital? Do I want this relationship around just my peers, understanding what they're doing in the industry? And then we kind of bite off pieces of how do we get there? Well, one of the aspect that I've identified in this course is starting with what's the important and why is it, what we need to do to get there, and a few skills of how we're going to navigate. A lot of times, our professional relationships, we take a slice off of our own relationships that we have built, and we kind of look at what we have done already in our past and why that will be important for our future, especially when it comes to a business context. So I'm excited about this aspect of putting this together and making it available as part of some of the things that we are doing, and then giving and helping people with real examples, such as the virtual launch, such as our events, to really give people an opportunity to build on that.
This is exciting. In fact, if everything that I heard from you and everything I have seen you do in last 15 years, if it is all going to come into this program, then I'm looking forward to attending that and promoting it to all my friends. When are you kind of releasing it? How do people reach out to you to get this training?
Well, actually, the first piece of the course is actually going to be available for March 1st. And so March 1st, and so we've been working on this actually for the last 6 months. And so to really articulate that. And so what I'm actually looking for is 3 entrepreneurs to participate in this program, to be part of the initial beta. And then once we have these 3 executives, senior executives that are part of this program, then we're able to really do a full launch. And so right now, what I'm doing, and I'm working with senior executives that I have created these meetings around by introducing them to other senior executives. And some of these senior leaders are senior executives in publicly traded companies. And we've already had a number of meetings where I've introduced them to other leaders. And what's really nice about this, Buck, is after we go through the initial aspect of the program, and then they test it with other executives that they have conversations with. Do you know that the very first person that was part of this program, they had their first meeting? Do you know there's a follow-up meeting that they're actually going to have, and they're actually talking business? When the focus around the initial conversation with these leaders were not necessarily to focus on business, but to just focus on a relationship. Business comes, but when you focus, but because of the fact that there was so much synergy between these 2 executives, they took it to the next level. And I was happy to kind of find that out, because a lot of times you don't necessarily know the end result of what it's going to look like. It's the same way that when you are trying to go from one destination to the other, you may have your map, you may have your plan, you start on the journey, there's a detour, or you find out the road is going to go someplace else. You focus on the end result. The journey itself is a process, and it cannot be defined as much as the end result of what you want to accomplish. But that's what makes the whole relationship management so exciting. You don't necessarily know how it turns out, but you do know you stay focused on the goal of building a relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. If you are just totally focused on the touchdown and not focusing on the road that you need to take to go there, then you're not going to get there.
Absolutely.
When I know we are running out of time, but I can't resist just one more quick question, if you can answer in a couple of sentences, because people understand slowly. Our new friends understand the importance of relation. They start working on that. But how do they track and measure the outcome of their relationship effort? Can you throw some light on that quickly?
One of the aspects of building a relationship and I go back to the whole analytical side of my brain, is when you really want to build a relationship, it really comes down to documenting what you want that relationship to accomplish. And you can track and measure it. It should be something that any type of goal, from my perspective, should be written. And so if you're embarking on a new relationship or want a new relationship, you put down what those objectives are and what that end goal is, and then track and measure it through those conversations, through those engagements. And if you're able to see what that feedback is from that relationship. And so by tracking it in a very consistent manner with milestones intact, what you want that relationship to be. So here's an example. Say, for example, you want a relationship to build, to go to know somebody who's in the industry, and maybe they are another senior executive. So what is it that you want out of that relationship? Well, you want to introduce different projects to them. Maybe you want to get to know what they're working on. Maybe you want to get to know who in their network, who you want to know. Well, you track that and you put that in different milestones. Maybe it's the first meeting. Well, you had that first meeting, and maybe that you had that conversation around what is it that you want to get done and to get to know about them. Well, you track that, and that's been accomplished. So a very systematic approach when it comes to the essence of what those relationships look like are going to be very, very important. And in this particular situation, as we include in our relationship management 1.0, is the social aspect, the social media aspect, LinkedIn,
Right.
And what you want to accomplish. I mean, I was one example, Buck, that you mentioned to me, the measurement. There are some people that I wanted to get to know in the industry. And so what I did, I started blogging on information relevant to them, that was relevant to them. And so eventually when they started liking my post, that's when I reached out to them in a very specific way. So there's a lot of different things that could be done, thinking creatively and innovate. And with innovation, it could be accomplished.
When this is great. In fact, I'm so happy you are formalizing your expertise and insights into a learnable content for people now. Do let me know when you kind of, announce the beta programs and other things. I'll also always share it with all my friends that I feel might benefit from that. So thanks a lot, Wayne. And we'll be talking soon again.
Absolutely.